had that happen before.
That will do it. All right, here we are. Welcome to the next preview and prediction video here on GoPats 99. I We are doing a whole bunch of NFL teams. I try to get as many of them as I can. This is the fourth in total. We've already done the Patriots. We already did the Bills. We already did the Eagles. And here we are. We are covering the Jaguars. And this is actually the second collaboration video I've done today. Roll Tide 99, I just put out a video. In fact, it's uploading as we speak for South Carolina alongside Carolina Jackpot. And here we are on the Go Pats 99 channel for the Jaguars preview and prediction. And we have a special guest who is a Jaguars fan. Some of you may have seen his content on YouTube. He does daily history videos, daily live streams, and also has a popular series, Dumb Decisions, where he breaks down weird decisions made by coaches in games. Introduce yourself.
How's it going? Thank you for having me. I am Jaguar 9. I'm Colin. I've been a Jaguars fan since 2005, through the good and the bad. It's been a lot more bad than good. And I've been just a diehard fan of this team, and I've been making content on YouTube for the past 6 years at this point, and thanks for having me.
Now, in these videos, before we get into the prediction, we always look at how the team was last year. And let's just say it was not ideal for the Jaguars last year. Would you say, Jaguar?
Yeah, I wish we could skip that part. Last year kind of sucked. So last year was a lot of one-score losses, a lot of bad coaching. Trevor Lawrence obviously got injured midway through the season. Mac Jones, Jaguars acquired him last year for a late-round draft pick from the Patriots. And as a Pats fan, you know Mac Jones is not the guy you want to hitch your ride on. He was pretty bad. A lot of games last year where the Jaguars were right in it. I think they had 10 or 11 one-score losses. And a lot of it was just due to bad coaching, bad in-game management, bad everything. And it was just a train wreck of a season. Start off 0-4, never really rebounded after that. Not a lot of bright spots last year.
There was one game in particular I was looking at last year against the Lions. You mentioned all the one-score losses, but the Lions one sticks out to me more because it was like almost a 50-point loss. And you could tell the Jaguars gave up on Doug Peterson by the time that game was even played.
Yeah, Peterson was not a good coach. By the time, really, he should have been fired at the end of 2023 season. I think after the collapse that happened, I think he should have been fired then. They gave him another year alongside Bulky, and that loss to Detroit, I thought for sure he was going to be gone after that because I figured, okay, you lose that game, you're 2-9, you're out of it. You have a bye week coming up, so you can fire him on the bye week. But apparently not. Apparently they were like, we're going to ride out the season with Doug for some inexplicable reason, not sure why. But that game was just a catastrophe. One of the worst games I've seen the Jaguars play. Defensively, they allowed points every single drive, besides the final drive, which was just a kneel down. Offensively, I mean, Mac Jones did absolutely nothing. No one did anything of note that game. It was really, really bad. And there were some close games, but that one was over 5 or 10 minutes in.
Now, the good thing with the Jaguars is that they did overhaul the staff. Peterson, he's fired. They bring in Liam Cohen, who had been a long time offensive mind for the Buccaneers. They also get rid of Trent Baalke, I'm not saying you shouldn't have gotten rid of Baalke. I'm saying you should have gotten rid of him at the same time you got rid of Peterson. That way you can actually get one of the top GMs. Instead, you wait a little bit. Finally, it takes you almost not getting Cohen until finally you convince him by firing your GM for you to actually fire him. And by that point, it's like, why bother?
It was a very, very weird situation. For whatever reason, Shad Khan, he has his faults as an owner. He has a lot of good things. He stays out of trouble. He's willing to spend money. But one of his faults is he is way too loyal. He is way too patient. And I don't know who was telling him what with Trent Baalke, especially after what happened in 2022, where, if you remember what happened in 22 after the Jaguars fired Urban Meyer after the 21 season, they decided we're going to keep Trent Baalke on. The Jaguars were the first team to fire their coach, but they were the last team to hire. They had Doug Peterson interview in like December of 21, and then they didn't interview him for another 30 or 40 days afterwards because he wasn't one of the guys. They tried going for everyone else, including Byron Leftwich, and they were like, we're not going to come as long as Trent Baalke's there. But Shad Khan was so adamant on Trent Baalke being a part of the Jaguars. And finally, someone got in his head. I think they really love Liam Cohen. And once Cohen said, I'm not coming to Jacksonville, about 2 hours later, Baalke was gone, and then the wheels were in motion to finally get this thing underway. It finally feels like a new era in Jacksonville. For the first time, they actually cleaned house, and they actually have guys coming in on a clean slate, and it feels really, really good. It's about time. It's years too late on Baalke, and it should have happened the day after the season was done. I mean, it should have happened way before, but it should have happened at least the day after the season was done. The fact that it took about 3 weeks after the season being done to fire Baalke, it was a mess of a situation, but at least at the end of the day, they did get one of my top coaches, and they did get my top GM prospect, and they got Tony Baselli. So weird process to get there, but it worked out.
Now, Jacksonville initially was supposed to have the 5th pick in the draft, but they traded that one up. They're able to get Travis Hunter. Do you think he's going to play cornerback? Do you think he's going to play receiver? Or do you think they're going to try to play him both until they find his strength?
They're playing them both. They're playing them both ways. So in training, or in minicamp, I should say, he has been practicing on both sides. There have been a few practices where he starts off wearing the teal jersey for offense and then switches over to the white jersey for defense. He's playing both. I feel like he's going to be a receiver more than a defensive back. I think they're going to play more at wideout. That's a bigger need than corner, I think, for the Jaguars, just because at corner, you have Tyson Campbell, you have Jordan Lewis, you got in the slot. You got Jerry and Jones, who looked pretty sharp last year, one of the few bright spots. Wide receiver, you don't really have anyone outside of Brian Thomas. Yeah, you have some guys like Delmy Brown and Parker Washington in the slot, but he's not a slot guy. Travis Hunter's not a slot guy anyways. So I feel like Travis Hunter would be playing more snaps this year at wideout than corner, but they're going to play in both ways and just see what happens. That's what Gladstone said when they drafted him. They said he basically is going to reinvent how football's played. There are certain guys that are special like that, and they wouldn't have drafted Hunter otherwise.
Now, there's one last thing I want to touch upon, and this one, my opinion is going to be a little bit controversial on this matter, so I wanted to let you give your opinion first before I give mine about Trevor Lawrence. Yep. and how he's been and how he's going to be to the Jaguars.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was coming. So here's the thing with Trevor. We know what he can do when he's healthy. Trevor Lawrence, we've seen him play very, very well before. We have. And there have been a lot of people saying, oh, he's a bust and whatnot. No, I've seen what busts look like. Trevor Lawrence is not a bust. Having said that, you definitely have some concerns with Trevor. I will say that. I'm not naive. I like Trevor a lot. When he's healthy, he's really good. He has not had a good coaching staff since 22. And it's not even me making excuses for him. 2021, he came into the league. He had Urban Meyer as his head coach. Urban Meyer was his coach. His top receiver was Laquan Treadwell. And Urban Meyer didn't know any of the players on the team. He was kicking his own players. So no one would have thrived under that spot. 22, he does really well. 22 leads some comebacks. Obviously, the 27-0 game, the Baltimore game. He looks really sharp. He looks like that first overall pick. And then after 22, Doug Peterson decides I'm handing over the offense to Press Taylor, who is completely unqualified. I'm going to barely coach. I'm not going to do anything. He still plays all right in 23. 24, obviously the injury. Now, that is a thing with Trevor needing to stay healthy. He's gotten hurt back-to-back seasons at this point. But he finally has a coach that knows how to coach. Doug Peterson refused to do anything. and Urban Meyer did nothing. So, on one hand, yes, Trevor needs to play better. No one's denying that. The fumbling is still a concern. There's still some boneheaded interceptions that he's making. I still have some concerns about his ability in the clutch, making interesting decisions. I'll put it that way. But he's got a coach now. He's got a coach that seems to know what he's doing, has a grasp of how to run an offense, and is actually willing to run an offense. We saw what Cohen did with the Bucs. We saw what he's done at a lot of different stops. We saw what he did at Kentucky with Will Levis. So I am concerned with Trevor. I will admit I am concerned, but it's not the concern of, it's time to move on from him. He does need to stay healthy. He needs to step up, but I feel like he absolutely could with what he's got around him this year versus the previous years where he had coaches that literally 2024, last year, they were deciding who was playing based on rock, paper, scissors. That's not even a joke. They actually were deciding guys playing based on rock, paper, scissors. And that won't happen this year. He's got a coach, and I think that is going to go a long way. Is Trevor a top 5 guy? No, but I think he can be a top 10 guy. I really do. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be a top 10 guy with his coaching staff.
I don't know what's worse, deciding who plays off of rock, paper, scissors, or that one coach who decided his quarterback based on a coin flip.
At least that one worked out. At least that one sort of worked out. The rock, paper, scissors, it's funny. That actually worked out, oddly enough, for Jacksonville because it was the Eagles game. It was Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, and they were deciding who to go in because apparently you can't play Walker and Hines out at the same time because why have your 2 best defensive ends on the field at the exact same time? It doesn't make any sense to me. It was our staff was weird. Our coaching sucked last year, but they decide Walker's going to go in based on that, and he actually recovered a fumble from Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown. So thank God he won that game on rock, paper, scissors. Thank God. But that same game, talking about bad coaching, that's not Trevor's fault. I mean, it's not his fault that the primary read at the end of that game as he's trying to lead a drive down the field is a fade route to your 3rd string running back, Dearness Johnson. That's why is he on the field in that spot? I don't think we have to worry about that this year with this coaching staff at all. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I think I haven't been this excited about Jacksonville in a while. Not necessarily going into the season. I don't think we're going to be that good this year, but just in terms of it's a new era, I haven't felt that way in Jacksonville in a while, and this feels good. This does feel pretty good.
Okay, so here's my opinion with Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if you're going to agree with it. I don't know if Jacksonville fans are going to agree with it, but here's my opinion. Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, his whole career, as you said, he's been saddlebacked by something. Mm-hmm. His first year, it was the terrible Urban Meyer year. 2022, he had a lot of flashes of greatness, leads Jacksonville to the playoffs. I believe he even led them to a playoff win in the first round, coming back against the Chargers. 2023, we were seeing that same Trevor Lawrence up until the bad injury. And then I also remember I watched it and I was like, he's concussed. Take him out the game. Peterson didn't take him out the game.
Nope.
But then last year, yes, he was also injured, but we also saw a lot of moments that made us scratch our heads with Trevor Lawrence. Granted, by that point, the team as a whole kind of failed off the rails by that point. But here we are. We're in year 5 with Trevor Lawrence. There's no excuses here.
Nope.
Liam Cohen, he's an offensive mind. The team is definitely going to be better coached. You finally have somebody who's showing promise, Travis Hunter. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't produce at the way we think, or if he has a season where he's injury riddled again, it may be time for Jacksonville to consider moving on from him. In fact, I was even surprised. I know Jacksonville committed a lot to Trevor Lawrence, and he's the guy in 2025. But when Shedeur Sanders was taking his big slide from the first round all the way down to the mid-5th round, I was surprised Jacksonville didn't try to take a shot at it to see if maybe Shadur could come in if Trevor Lawrence got injured. But at this point, I mean, you wasted a you. I hate to say wasted a first round pick because it's not really a waste as of yet. But you made the first round pick on him after your franchise practically tanked for him. And all you've gotten out of him so far is one playoff appearance and one playoff win, and 1 year where he played the full season healthy. If he can't stay uninjured, or if he doesn't produce in the way 2022, it might be time to to move on.
Yeah, I think that's the general feeling around Jacksonville right now is not necessarily move on, but I think the general feeling is okay, there's no excuses this year. There's nothing holding him back this year on paper. You have a wide receiver one in Brian Thomas, who I think could lead the league in receiving yards this year. Brian Thomas is great. You've got Travis Hunter. You've got a coaching staff that is knowing what they're doing. And I think there is something to say that the 1 year that Trevor's been good, he had a coach that actually cared, versus 23 and 24, Doug Pearson was very apathetic. He was very hands-off. Press Taylor took the reins, and then obviously 21, we know what happened there. So I don't know about move on, but I definitely think I think part of that's also the money that's tied to him. It's very hard to move on, just because the dead cap would be absolutely insane. You have to also remember too with Trevor, he's still super young. He came into the league very, very young. He is only he's only 6 days older than Tyler Shuck, and Tyler Shuck just got drafted. So I mean, that's an indictment on the Saints pretty much to draft him in the second round like that. But Trevor Lawrence is still very, very young. He's only 25 years old right now, so he still has plenty of time to develop and improve. And we did see those flashes. I'm hoping everything works out for him this year. I really am hoping, because I think there is the idea that he is overrated by Jaguars fans, but underrated by the NFL fans. But there is that skepticism, like, okay, you got to stay healthy now. There's no excuses. Training wheels are off. This is now or never. This is, we got the coach. We got the weapons. It's go time.
Yeah, it's go time for Trevor Lawrence. No more excuses. You got a coach that actually cares, who's actually focused on offense, which could be good or bad, depending on which side. Now, that is our look at last year's Jacksonville team, the changes in the coaching staff, and what we think about Trevor Lawrence. Now it is time to move on to the big part of this video, which is the 2025 predictions for Jacksonville. Now, as I do on my college football channel, for each game, I'm going to let Jaguar Gator 9 do his prediction first, and then I'll do mine, and we'll do that for all of Jacksonville's games this year. Jacksonville is going to start off in week 1 at noon at home, taking on Carolina. Your ball's in your court, JG.
Yep. Yeah, we'll say the first half of the schedule is pretty tough. Carolina, there is still some that skepticism about Bryce Young, and obviously the defense for Carolina was not that good last year. I think that game might be a must-win, considering how tough that schedule is. I'm going to go win on that one. I'm going win at home.
Yeah, I have the same skepticism about Bryce Young. He showed a lot of flashes in the late part of last year, but there was always that. It seemed like his early failures were leaning over him the whole time. I think the fact that you get it at home puts it in your favor here. And also, like you said, I think you have to win this one. I think you do win this one. Because unfortunately, in weeks 2 through 7, the NFL practically tied you by your toes to a pole and is lowering you headfirst into a fire. Because starting in week 2, you have to go on the road to Cincinnati.
I will say,
what's your thoughts here?
Cincy, it is where they usually don't start the season off well, but I mean, Jerry and Jones has not played the outside. Travis Hunter, if he plays corner a lot, I mean, it's a rude awakening with Chase and Higgins. I think the Bengals win that one.
You broke up there. Can you repeat
Oh,
that?
yeah, I got Bengals. I got Bengals winning that one.
Okay. Yeah, Bengals, they were disappointing last year to me. And the sad thing is, we all said, oh, it's going to depend on how Joe Burrow plays. Joe Burrow played well, but the Bengals, it's like they didn't really get their groove going until the Dallas game late in the season. Speaking of, of teams that might need to move on from somebody, I think if the Bengals don't have a good season this year and they don't make the playoffs, the Bengals should consider moving on from head coach Zach Taylor, because the Bengals
Absolutely.
know the mistake of hanging on to a coach too long with Marvin Lewis and how they hung on to him too long. Because, 2 years ago we said they're going to make the Super Bowl, but they didn't even make the playoffs. But you could have passed that off as Joe Burrow being injured. Last year, Joe Burrow played well, but the Bengals missed the playoffs. I think if they miss the playoffs again this year, especially if Joe Burrow has the season we think he's going to have, it's time to move on from Zach Taylor. I got the Bengals winning this one in week 2.
Mm-hmm. They do start off slow, but I think they'll beat Jacksonville.
And in week 3, you have your first division opponent. You're playing against Houston. What's your thoughts here?
For whatever reason, the Jaguar Trevor Lawrence does not play well against Houston. For whatever reason, that's his bogey team. So there are some times where the Jaguars have won, but really Trevor's only played well once against Houston in his career. So until proven otherwise, I'm going Houston.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Houston for me is that they played really well with Stroud in year 1, but then last year regressed. And a lot of people kind of fell off the train, but it's not abnormal at all for a rookie to regress in his second year, but then go back to a similar level in his third year. I think that's what we're going to see from Stroud. And especially since you have to go on the road to Houston, I think you actually lose that game week 3 against Houston.
Yeah.
Following that, you go on the road to San Francisco. Talk about a team that may have a case for most disappointing team in 2024 is San Francisco, falling all the way to the Super from 2023 to 2024. What's your thoughts on Jacksonville having to play them?
We're usually pretty bad on the West Coast. San Fran's a good team when they're healthy. It's in the middle of a brutal stretch for the Jaguars. I'm going to go loss. I think the Niners win that one.
I think San Francisco, to me, is one of those teams that really has to have a good year. They had a lot of expectations on them in 2024, but faltered big time. They just handed out a massive contract to Brock Purdy, so now he has to work out really good. I think San Francisco, like you said, when they're healthy, they're great. Can they stay healthy this year? I don't think that's a concern in week 4, given how early it is, unless they somehow suffer the injury apocalypse in weeks 1 through 3. But I still think they win in week 4. But in week 5, ouch, is the only thing I can say, because you're going on the road in week 5 to play Kansas City. What's your thoughts?
Monday Night Football. I don't know why the NFL schedule makers thought, hey, Jaguars Chiefs, Monday Night Football. That deserves a primetime game. We haven't beaten the Chiefs since 2009. That's not changing. I think a loss.
Your thoughts on how this game got Monday Night Football is the same for me as a Patriots fan in that same way as to how the Patriots somehow got a primetime game on the road against the Bills that same week.
At least I get that, because that's the
What were they thinking when they sat in that room to make the schedule for week 5?
I don't know. They were drunk.
But
I
anyway,
mean, at least Patriots
Chiefs.
Bills divisional rivalry, but the Jaguars Chiefs, I got nothing.
But yeah, this one, the Chiefs are going to be on a mission this year. Ever since they got absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl, where you question if they had a pulse in the game, which is rare from the Chiefs. And Mahomes is going to be determined. Kelsey's going to be more determined than ever. It's in Arrowhead. No, I'm sorry. It's not in Arrowhead. It's in Florida. Still, even with that, Kansas City is one of the best road teams out there. And the talent discrepancy is just that. I think the Kansas City Chiefs get a win here in week 5 against the Jaguars.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs winning that one too. So
Fortunately,
1-4 to start, yeah.
Fortunately, you do get somewhat of a bone thrown at you because if there's a year to catch the Seahawks, it's in 2025, especially somewhat early in the season.
Yeah, I do think the Jaguars win this one. You have 1 o'clock games to 10 o'clock for Seattle. That's always tough to make that jump. The other thing, too, with the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, I'm not crazy about him. Jaguars played well against Darnold last year. They got to him. Mac Jones just sucked offensively that game. So I think with a pulse, you can beat Sam Darnold. If he plays like I think he's going to. Just need an offense that doesn't have Mac Jones throwing picks, but obviously Mac Jones no longer there. So I do think the Jaguars win this one. I think the Jaguars beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks. To me, it's going to depend on which version of Sam Darnold shows up. Is it going to be the one that showed up for most of the season last year with the Vikings? Or is it going to be the one that showed up a lot in the later part last year and when he was with the Jets and Panthers? Heck, if he flames out badly or gets injured, there's a possibility Jalen Milroe is starting this game in week 3, which that would probably be the worst case scenario for the Seahawks is if Jalen Milroe is already starting at that point. But I think you win this one because of the whole West Coast thing to East Coast, and they're having to play this one, which for them would be 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Next game, however, the NFL continues its love affair with putting Jacksonville in London because you're going to be in London to take on Los Angeles, 8:30 in the morning. Local time here. I'm on the central time zone here. Oh boy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna play the Rams, I mean, playing them in London is completely like the best spot, I think, because of the travel and the adjustment. The Rams don't really go to London a lot. Jaguars, they're used to it playing every year. But the Rams are a great team. The Rams are a phenomenal team. I think they are going to make the Super Bowl this year. My pick is Bills-Rams. So I'm not taking the Jaguars. I think the Rams win this one.
Yeah, I think the Rams here. I have my concerns about the Rams with how aging their roster is, and when is Matthew Stafford eventually going to have Father Time catch up to him? But I still think the Rams would get the win here. It's going to be closer than I think a lot of people give it credit for because of the West Coast having to travel to London here. But I still think the Rams get the win here.
Yeah.
You get your bye week in week 8, which I would think if you're a Jaguars fan, you would want it later in the season.
I mean, 8's fine.
Comments on the early bye week.
8's right around the middle. Also, it's a brutal stretch. The Jaguars are starting the season off. Really, for me, anything from week 8 on, I'm good with. I like having it in the middle of the season, and 8's pretty smack in the middle.
After that bye week, you then travel to Las Vegas. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. This is an interesting one because obviously it's a new look Raiders team with Geno. But I think coming off the bye, I'm gonna go win on this one. I'm gonna this could go either way. This one could go either way. I'm going to lean toward win. Just you got to take them to win some games, but I'm going to go win.
Yeah, I think you win this one. The concern with Pete Carroll for me is having been out of the sport for a year. And yes, I know our head coach, Mike Vrabel's been out of coaching for a year, but he's still been in the NFL for an office. Pete Carroll just basically just sat in whatever mansion he lives in, keeping an eye on if he wants to return, similar to what Sean Payton did. Geno Smith, I'm not too crazy on. I think you get the win here. But the next one, you then have to travel to Houston. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, same as week 3. It's the bogey team. Until I see Trevor consistently play well against Houston, I'm always going to take Houston to win.
Yeah, Houston is my pick to win y'all's division this year simply because there's no teams that stick out to me that could prove me otherwise. And I think you get the loss here in Houston. So you're struggling out the blocks with only 3 wins going into week 11, where you have to take in the Los Angeles Chargers. What's your thoughts?
I mean, Trevor is 2-0 against the Chargers, but I think it's obviously with Harbaugh now as coach, it's a lot different. I think Chargers are a good team. I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, it's going to help the Chargers here that they are not coached by Brandon Staley and instead coached by Jim Harbaugh. Do they travel well? Maybe, maybe not. But I still think that the Chargers get the win here over the Jaguars. Then you have to travel to Arizona. And any comments here?
I hope we win. I'll probably be at that game. I hope we win. We usually struggle against quarterbacks that can run. So I'm going to go Arizona. But I will say Arizona usually second half of the season falters off a little bit. So hopefully we caught them at the right time. But I'm going to go Arizona.
Yeah, I have my concerns a lot with Kyler Murray. He always plays decent, but it's like the team at a certain point starts to fall off. Do they get rid of Kyler Murray after the season if they don't make the playoffs? Or do they try to continue looking for something within him? I actually think you get the upset here. Cardinals, you can't really trust them in the second half of the season. And so I think you actually go on the road and get the upset over the Cardinals.
Would not mind that. Would not mind that at all.
Following that, you then go on the road against Tennessee. And any comments here?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Callahan as head coach. Don't know what Cam Ward's going to be like. Still not crazy about Tennessee and the weapons they've got. Not crazy about what they did this offseason necessarily. I think the Jaguars are a better team. I think this is one of the few games they'll be favored in. I'm going to take the Jaguars.
Yeah, I did pick when I did my Patriots video, Tennessee to upset my Patriots, but that's only because the Patriots at that point are going to have come off a 3-game road stretch at that point. Tennessee is going to be – their record's going to be heavily dependent on how good Cam Ward turns out to be. I'm not too crazy about Callahan as the head coach either. I think he's probably the main reason they had the first-round pick was because of how terrible they were last year under Callahan. And I actually think you get the win here, even though it's on the road. I think you actually managed to win here against Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee is
and then following
not great.
Following that, you then, speaking of not so great situations, after that, you're at home against Indianapolis.
The streak has to continue. Until the streak dies, I'm taking it. until the streak does, the Jaguars have won every game against the Colts at home since 2015. Until that streak comes to an end, it should have come to an end years and years ago. I don't know how they keep doing it, but until it happens, I'm taking the Jaguars to win that one.
I personally was never really big on Anthony Richardson as quarterback, having seen how he played in college. He did show a few flashes early on, but hasn't really lived up to the expectations you would normally think a first-round quarterback would. We all know that infamous game where he sat out the last drive because he needed a breather or whatever that excuse was. I think you get the win at home against Indianapolis, and actually have you on a 3-game winning streak at that point.
Yeah, the second half of the schedule is a lot easier than the first on paper. It is a lot easier. So if you just survive the first half, you're okay.
And then I think it even gets easier in the next week is because you are going to remain at home and you're playing probably the weakest team in the entire AFC, the New York Jets. What's your thoughts?
I've got a win there. I've got a win there. I'm not crazy about Fields and his pocket presence. I think by this point, Jags are going to be finding themselves in a rhythm, so I have Jacksonville winning that game.
Okay, I'm asking you this question because there's a debate going on big time about this. Did the Jets ruin Aaron Rodgers?
No. I think Rodgers. I don't think it helped. I will say I don't think they helped matters much, but I don't think they ruined Rodgers. I think Rodgers had a lot to do with that himself. I mean, at the end of the day, it's tough to play quarterback in this league when you're 40 years old. It is tough to play quarterback when you're 40.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers definitely had his flaws, but I think it's more the team as a whole that they didn't really do well in his time. Justin Fields seems like a downgrade as much as it wouldn't seem that way. It feels like Fields is kind of a downgrade. I think you win this one here against the Jets.
Mm.
Then in week 16, the competition kicks back up a little bit because you have to go on the road to play Denver. What's your thoughts here?
We're usually not that good in cold weather. I haven't seen Trevor play well in inclement weather during his career. It could be a cold one. I don't know what the conditions are going to be like this game, but definitely cold. And I'm going to say Denver wins that game.
Yeah, I have to agree. Bo Nix did very well in his first season. They've done better every year under Sean Payton. I think they're going to do better again. And like you said, the cold weather, because this is very late in the season, it's going to be very cold weather in that environment. Not to mention their home stadium sits literally a mile high in elevation. I think that hurts Jacksonville, and you lose this one.
Yeah.
And in second to last game of the season, you're on the road against Indianapolis. What's your thoughts here?
I think the Jaguars split this series. I don't think it's going to be a sweep in either direction. So I have the Jaguars winning the first game. I have the Colts winning this one.
I have to agree here because say what you want about Richardson. It feels like this is a classic split the series kind of spot. And in that circumstance, I always pick who's the home team in that spot.
Yep, right there with you.
And then in the last week of the season, which has been labeled as a flex game, so it could take place either on a Saturday night or it could take place somewhere on Sunday. You're home against Tennessee. I think by that point, it's probably a noon game.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, if that game, for whatever crazy reason, is a Saturday night game, something crazy happens at that point. If that game is Saturday night, it means these teams completely exceed expectations and the league is strong. The Jaguars usually Again, I'm not crazy about Tennessee this year. And the Jaguars, every year since 2005, whoever's at home in the final week of the season against the Jaguars wins that game. Jaguars are the home team, so I'm going Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Jacksonville to win against Tennessee on the road. I'm definitely picking them to win here unless some craziness happens. Trevor Lawrence is injured or Tennessee got much better out of Cam Ward than we think he did, but I think you win this game.
Yeah, it's crazy too. They swept the Titans last year with Mac Jones at quarterback, so we'll see what happens this year. But I like Jacksonville's odds to get the sweep.
So there you have it. Jaguar Gator 9 predicts that Jacksonville goes 8-9. I have Jacksonville going 9-8. The differing opinion with us is that Arizona game where I think you win, you think y'all lose there.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is going to be one of those years where if they're just in it at the end of the first by the bye week, they're in by the end of the first half of the season. Schedule gets a lot easier on paper. So if you can just survive and stay in the hunt, you got a shot.
Yeah, I think the two biggest must-win games on Jacksonville's schedule is week 1 against Carolina and week 6 against Seattle. If you win those two games, considering how terrible your schedule is up until week 11, you have an outside chance of the playoffs.
Yep.
Depending on how the rest of the chips fall.
3 wins at the bye week. You got to have 3 at the bye week. If you're going to make the playoffs, you got to have 3 wins at the bye. And if you go 3-4 going into the bye, I would probably take that.
Do you think 9-8 for any team in the AFC is going to be enough to get them in the playoffs?
I don't think so. I think you got to go 10. I think I got to go 10-7.
I mean, personally, my 4 division winners, I have Kansas City, Buffalo, Houston. I forgot who the other one was.
In the North?
I don't think Jacksonville went. Yeah, the North. I think the Ravens clearly win that one.
Yeah, so those are the 4.
And then for the wild cards, I have the Bengals as a shoe-in, and I also have the Chargers as a shoe-in. I think that final spot comes somewhere dealing with either the Steelers, the Dolphins. I think 9-8, you can't go that if you think you have a shot at the playoffs. I think 10 is the bare minimum.
Yep. Unless, I mean, I could see 9-8 making it with the division win, but wild card, no. No, I think wild card got to have at least 10.
But anyway, that's our prediction video for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Jaguar, for coming on to the video.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you, man. We'll see what happens this year, but appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being a fan of the channel.
All right. So subscribe to Jaguar Gator 9 if you haven't already. Subscribe to GoPats 99. Subscribe to Roll Tide 99, the college football channel. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next prediction video. I hope to get it out at some point this week. I'm going to go ahead and cover the Detroit Lions in the next video. Thank y'all very much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.